to start with questions?
Yep.
All right. All you.
Start with me. In regard to Donovan, why was she ready?
Well,
I'm going to throw that one out. Just why? I mean, because
Yeah.
she's a freshman. Not every freshman's ready to play at this.
yeah. Well, ready this past weekend or ready for the
Ready
year?
for this. I mean, because she's played pretty much from the jump. And why was she
So
ready?
ready from the beginning.
Why was she ready for this level?
Yeah. Why was Donovan ready? Well, I don't think she was completely ready. I think, she's still on a progression, and we saw a different version of her this weekend, than we did day one. But day one ready, I think to be on the floor, I actually asked this question last week to one of our players. What does it take to get on the court at Oregon State, and what does it take to keep you out there? Defense. Defense gets you on the court. Taking care of the basketball gets you on the court. Making shots that you shoot at your percentage. Those three things, and obviously to shoot those shots, you're executing. To not turn it over, you're executing, and those things. And so if you think of Dono, her assist turnover ratio at the beginning of the year was legendary to start the year, like 25-1 or something crazy like that to start the year. So she wasn't making mistakes with the ball as she was learning what we were doing. She was playing as good a defense as she could, and she's blessed that way with both body and mind. And she was making layups, and she knocked down a couple threes, to start the year. And I didn't think she was forcing anything. And so for those reasons, it just made sense to have her out there, and it proved that she was ready at that level. And now we're seeing her adapt, to conference.
Athletically, where does she rank among your better athletes you've had in the program?
Well, it's interesting because it feels like, you'll watch her for a while, then you'll see a burst to where it's like, okay, there's another gear even, than we've seen. And so when we run sprints, she's out in front, so she's so quick and fast. And, she's more of a strider than, a small stepper, I would say. Like when you think of Gabby, you think about the great defenders we've had. A Defensive Player of the Year at the guard position is impressive. And Gabby Hansen won that award. Gabby was able to turn, and like her hips turned so quickly, and her feet, her little steps made her so quick at changing directions. Dono takes a little bit bigger stride to get there, but she's still getting there. And, I don't know. We've had some really good athletes, so I think she's up there.
Schedule-wise, this is the last game you play against Oregon for now. Scott Barnes told me it's up to the basketball coaches whether you guys want to play these teams or not in the future. Where do you stand on that?
Playing Oregon, here's the reality. The reality is it's a non-conference game now, and so it falls into that category. Yes, they have been our rival forever. You're talking to somebody who's lived my entire life within this rivalry. And so it's a really hard question. It's a sad question to me. But the reality is, I think as a program, we have to look at it. Is it like any other non-conference game? Does it benefit us in the future to play them this year, next year, whenever? I don't think it's a scenario where you just play them to play them. I don't think that would be wise, to be honest. It might not make sense in certain situations. So I think it's case by case. I've not talked to Kelly to know what his desire is. And to be honest, haven't thought about it a whole much other than that. And that is the principle that I would base the decision upon, if it's left up to me.
Coach, I do want to talk a little bit more about Donovan Hunter and kind of that assist to turnover ratio. She still ranks in the top 50 as a freshman, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. What do you think has impressed you the most up to this point in the level of play, whether it was from the beginning of the season or how you've seen her improve and grow up to this point heading into this weekend?
Well, her ability to learn has been absolutely remarkable. Her ability to adapt, and that's true of all three of our freshmen. But Donna's been the one with the ball in her hands the most, that you've been able to see her the most. What she did this weekend was insane. Literally. I mean, it almost doesn't make sense. I would say another catalyst to Donna's improvement is how much she cares for her teammates. I mean, she wants to win so bad for them, every bit as much as for herself, if not more, actually. It's the way she operates. And so her defense against Sherrod the other night and against Colorado's transition, and then once again against Utah's transition, two of the faster teams that we'll face, almost single-handedly keeping them out of transition and holding them down offensively was remarkable. Then, I think to adapt to this level, I mean, the assist turnover thing, I mean, when your road trips are to LA this year and to the Bay, it's two of them anyway, that there's going to be turnovers typically. So to be in that conversation still is impressive. But her ability to adapt and give us what we needed from a scoring standpoint this weekend, that to me that's another category, in my opinion. It's like defense is how she's identified now to go be what this team's needed under the circumstance from an offensive standpoint and a scoring standpoint in particular, was remarkable.
She even surprised me. There was one point she went down for a layup and was like immediately back on the other side. I was like, wasn't she just on the side of the court?
Yeah.
I do want to transition to the bench. Obviously, the bench for you guys this season between Timea, Lily, so many others, has been phenomenal. You guys, again, rank among the best. How important has that been for you guys, especially in those moments when some of the starters have not been able to score points? You can get that little bit of that spark to kind of get things, juicing for you guys and get that momentum rolling.
Well, our depth has been the story, in my opinion. It's the reason that we're where we're at right now, and have given ourselves an opportunity to be in lots of conversations right now. And when you're fairly young, you're fairly new as a group, like we clearly are going into the year, it's not going to be everybody's night all the time. When you're a freshman, when you're a sophomore, it's hard to be that consistent and bring it every night, and you're facing different defenses. Sometimes it's schemed against you. And then, who you are on defense also, Matt, factors in. The fact that we could go, okay, it's not your night, it's this person's night, and somebody else rises, and that's happened every game, to where we can at some point find a group that hits and gives us a chance in the end, or pulls away. So I think the depth of this team and our bench and everybody being engaged and the lack of ego and just the selflessness and this team first, I mean, that is true of this team through and through, and everybody's seeing it. And that's, why everybody loves watching this team. I mean, it's an inspiring way to live, and it's an inspiring way to play, and it speaks volumes about who these people are as a team. But our depth is, in my opinion, that is the story.
I feel like basketball's a sport where you really want to hit your stride at the right moment in time heading into a postseason. Obviously, you guys were getting closer to that. Do you feel like you guys are at that right point that you want to see right now as a coach, that you guys are hitting your stride at the exact right moment for this team?
I feel like we still have a long ways to go. I mean, we played great this weekend, and our effort, our execution was a different level. Our effort was, as good as it gets. I'm trying to think of the last time a team played that hard. We play hard, but a team played that hard. It's hard to do what we just did this weekend, and from an effort standpoint. And so this weekend was the perfect thing at the perfect time for us. We need as much belief as possible to get on the road and, to play our rival and then to go back and face these teams again. We needed this level of execution and this feeling that we have now because our best basketball is way down the road, in my opinion. And so this was a window into it, and the right thing at the right time. And so the best is yet to come.
Yeah. Just going back to just that confidence, do you feel like that was just the part that the girls kind of almost needed some experience, needed those wins in order to kind of unlock this potential for this team?
I felt like we needed to play with that mindset that we played with this weekend. I think, it was probably Talia's best weekend of her career. I thought complete. I mean, she was unreal defensively both games. Gave us the offense. Started off a little slow offensively against Colorado and then settled in, and I think, she even said Donna's aggressiveness kind of, gave her kind of, I don't know, some confidence herself. And so can you say it one more time?
Just what role do you think confidence has kind of
Yeah.
played in your guys' success lately?
Yeah, and so I just think that what this weekend did for us was what we needed. It let them see themselves the way they need to see themselves, to go out and get big wins on the road. And so I just think all the effort that I talked about, the defensive intensity, defense fuels the offense, and we gave into the defensive end, and we played out of our mind defensively, just a different level of awareness and accuracy, and we were so disruptive. So I think that is what allowed us to do what we did offensively. And so when it all came together, it was beautiful. But I think having that experience, a dominating performance, against Utah in a decisive, it was a closer game than maybe it felt even against Colorado, just with the free throws, down the stretch. And it just felt good, like we won this game, it felt like that. And those are important feelings for a team. Yeah, so I think it's exactly what we needed.
And then going into, another big road game, just what do you remember about that last Oregon game that you for sure want to make sure that you guys are preparing for that area of the game for this week?
Well, obviously it took us a while to get going. Lots of factors in play there. A lot of new people out there, first conference game, playing your rival right after Christmas. A little funky, to do that and different. And it took us a while to settle in, but then once we did, obviously it was an amazing second half. I think looking back, I don't know if you can put too much weight on that first time around. I think we got to look at who we are now, both of us, and they've been playing tough at home and playing everybody close and holding people down, and they have the ability to really disrupt at the rim, and give you a different look that we're seeing from night to night, so it's a change-up game, or it has been anyway. And so I think for us it's just, the chess match going into it. That's always fun, and looking at it like it's any other game. I think that's probably the correct mindset.
And then to go and beat the third team in the nation, and then a quick turnaround. Just how did you feel like your team reacted? And then how was your team kind of feeling after that quick turnaround to have to play again at noon again on Sunday? Like how are they holding up?
Yeah, from what I know, great. We haven't had practice yet since. We took 2 days off after a little break in the schedule, and we took advantage of that. I think they've been grinding so hard. It was good for all of us actually to get away for a couple days, and we'll get back at it this afternoon. But that turnaround was crazy, because Colorado doesn't let you. That took 3 days, getting ready for that. Sometimes we can talk about both opponents, Tuesday, a little bit on Wednesday, and then solely get into your Friday game on Thursday, of course, and then solely Sunday on Saturday in practice. And last week, we did not mention Utah because Colorado took it every minute. And then, it was one practice at 10 a.m., which was, 7 p.m. game Friday night, 10 a.m. practice the next day, where we just had a couple hours to talk as a staff really about them, and then, put our stuff in, and then shoot around was really important. I thought Sunday morning as well, as we got ready for it. But they, at this point of the year, we're speaking the same language. We're so quick to adapt, and that's a credit to this team for really caring enough to learn how to adapt quickly and then put a game plan in place. But I thought most important was their mindset. They wanted to win, and they wanted to clearly wanted to dominate.
Isaac, Les? Here, can you pass that down to
You don't want any camera time, Andrew? No. You don't want to test your arm out?
Your team is in the top 10 in the country in field goal percentage defense. Defensively, what's your philosophy on what makes a good defense?
Not letting them do what they like doing. I think that's the most important thing. And that's no secret. I think everybody's probably trying to do that, unless your defense is just fueling your offense and you don't really care. We care, and in this conference you have to. And so I love scouting. We know our scout very well. We know what our opponents each would like to do, and our goal is to not let any of them do it. And so get in the way, make every shot over your hand, box out, and let's go. And I think the team's really embraced that. Now the next step is to make plays out of that position. So we should rarely be out of position. Everything should be in front of us every second of the game. We don't want to give up transition, and because of that positioning, we should dominate the defensive boards, and that's been our MO forever, and I think if you look at, the best teams, and as I was developing that philosophy, that's kind of what it came from. What do the very best teams do? What are they doing? How are they playing? And what just makes sense, So a long time ago, I learned I hated fronting the post. I hated it. I was a post coach, and we were fronting, and I was just thinking to myself, why are we giving up boards? When I don't think that player can make that shot over us enough times to beat us. Who cares if she catches it? And if we have position, well, certainly there's aberrations to this, and certainly there's, you have to do different things, no question. But as a general rule, that was my philosophy. It's just like, take away their A game, make them play in their B, and make them play out of their C game.
Some teams create that defensive chaos by extending their defense. You don't really do that. Relying on the half-court defense, is that a philosophy approach? Or is that a personnel approach? Or how is that developed over the years?
I'd love to press. I think it depends on who you have and, who the other team is. And in this league, there's so many great guards. We tend to have, tall bigs, especially over the years. You don't want them away from the basket too far, and the more you extend, the more you have to rotate, and the more you rotate, the more the basket's exposed. And so you're kind of picking your poison a little bit, and so percentage basketball has worked well when we've been able to score, and so there's a time and a place for everything, but you do have to, I coach to personnel, who do we have? What's the best way to help them win games, and put them in position to be successful, and so that's probably the core philosophy of everything I do.
So the team, doesn't rank very highly in steals, but you do block shots. Is that a little bit of you're trading maybe with your bigs, you're trading some block shots for some steal opportunities?
Yeah, and I think, though, there's steals available. That's the thing, and this team proved that this weekend. We had 7 or 9 against Utah, 9 blocks, 7 steals, I think, something like that. There are steals available out of great position defense. The best teams I've coached have found ways to manufacture that level of disruption without getting beat. We have that ability. This team does, and you saw that this weekend. I thought we were very active and very disruptive. So more of that, But blocks, come because you're in the way. So what does that player want to do? And when she does it, get in the way. Well, that's what Ruth Hamlin mastered and made her who she is. Just embodying that. I'm going to be in the way of this team, not just one player. And when they come to the basket, I'm just going to get in the way. And so we've had so many great players over the years that have done that, guard and post defenders. So, so that leads to great defensive field goal percentage, defense, which is my favorite stat. I've said that forever. Leads to blocks. Leads to defensive rebounding, and if you're elite in those 3 categories and you're ahead on the board because you can score, that puts a lot of pressure, on those shooters.
You mentioned coming into the season that you wanted to get back to that defensive identity. How close do you feel like this team is to being the defensive team that you want them to be?
Really close. I feel like from a mindset and a desire that we're there, and we've been there for a little while, and that is what fueled this weekend, and that's what's fueled our success. So this team, I give them a total credit for understanding the importance of the defensive end of the floor, embracing it. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a grind. It takes total self-sacrifice, but our leaders, Timea and AJ, the 2 most veteran players on this team, have given into it. And they are now setting the tone, and everybody else is falling in. And, you got Dono and Kennedy up on top, first person, slowing the ball every possession as much as possible. They set the tone every possession, and that's who they identify as, that defensive player. So if you're going to win in this conference, you have to be a great defensive team, period. And with the outlier of Iowa, who happens to be the #1 offense, everyone else that makes a Final Four is elite defensively. It's just a fact. Just look. Those are the best defensive teams. And that's how you get there. When we were the best defensive team, we got there. I'm not going to say we weren't first. We were second to UConn that year. But we were second in defense. And we got to a Final Four. And so it's not a secret. And this team, I love them for it. They are learning to love that end of the court, and it's showing.
I had one follow-up to the question I asked about playing Oregon. Given, you're going to the WCC next year, and it's no secret that league isn't as strong as the Pac-12. When do you start building a non-conference schedule for next? Do you typically wait till the off season? And with that in mind, do you need to be kind of mindful of making the non-conference pretty difficult, just given what you're going into?
Yeah, those discussions are happening as we sit here. Is putting a schedule together that is reminiscent of what we're doing now. And so it would just be in some ways flipped, and so I think that's important. Scott Barnes has told us, we're still Power 5. We're being funded Power 5. That's the intent. The intent is to compete nationally. That's why I'm here. And so because of that, we need to do our best to schedule as competitively as possible in every way. And so that is what we are working hard at.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Just talking to Coach about the team's defense and where you guys are at. Donovan, defensively, as a freshman, how long did it take for you to start feeling like you understood where you were supposed to be?
Yeah, I always believe that defense is just effort. But going into college, you realize it's a little bit more than that. The small details of it. I can go into the details of when you have to do a certain thing on defense and what certain situation. But I would just say collectively, as a team, we've just focused in on the small details. But really, it's just effort.
And Timea, for you, your second year in that system, how much of a difference does that make, understanding where you're having to be? Is it more natural, less having to think about, what your responsibilities are?
For sure. Donald kind of hit on it, but people kind of underestimate the details of college basketball. And so coming into it, being as my second year, it's definitely helped being in the system for 2 years. You kind of know the nuances and certain things, small things that you wouldn't even think about coming in as a freshman. And so, just trying to spread my knowledge of what I know. And it's been fun.
Donovan, when did you start to begin to have some confidence in your offensive game? Because obviously it hit a peak this weekend. But when did you feel like you could consistently score at this level?
Yeah, I would say for me, the Stanford-Cal weekend was really good for me. You go into Stanford, they're an amazing team, so they show you things that you want to work on independently and as a team. I think, especially at the point guard position, my mindset was really focused in on, make sure I'm running the right play, make sure I'm passing at the right time. And when that slows down for me in my head, then just being able to score kind of pops up in your head a little bit more. She's always, in practice, is always like, be a scorer, have a scorer mindset. So I think it finally just clicked randomly one day. They believe in me, and so when you have a whole team and a whole staff that believes in you, eventually you start to believe in yourself. So,
you look like you could play a number of sports at a high level, track, maybe volleyball, soccer. Why did you pick basketball?
I picked basketball. My family's a huge basketball family. My dad's coached for a really long time. They trained kids in the basketball industry. I watched my older brother play, so I was always in the gym and watching their practices. So I would just say I was kind of just grew up into the sport, and it's indoor. I used to play soccer, but the cold weather just wasn't for me, so.
You and the rest of us. Donovan, I'm just curious, this 2-game stretch against Colorado and Utah, did you learn anything new about yourself, at least here at this collegiate level, that you maybe didn't know about yourself at the high school level?
I would simply just say believing in myself. Sports, not a lot of people realize, the mental side of things for athletes. Whether you have a good game or a bad game, you still kind of walk away thinking like, could I have done something better? You go through a whole spiral of things that you could think of. I think it simply just goes down to believing. I'm really faith-based, so after games, after practices, I really focus in on just praying about things and just giving it to him. I can't really control many things. So I just said during the weekend he answered a lot of the prayers that I prayed, and he's given me the confidence. So.
Actually, can you speak a little bit more of that? How much does your faith really, have that impact, especially on you during a game? Maybe when things aren't going so well, or when things are going well, how does that kind of balance when you're in that moment?
Yeah, if you really focus in on faith, you realize you truly can't control a lot of things. In sports, you can control your effort level, but you can't control if your shots fall, or if they do. Before a game, during the national anthem, I'm always saying a prayer, pray over just the fact that we have fun. I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of athletes take away the fun aspect in our head because we always have these high expectations for ourselves. So when I finally just realized that, God gives us all gifts and abilities, so we're just here playing this sport to honor that. Who are we to not use the gift that he's given us? So just focusing in on that, praying, and then giving it to him. Whether you're down in a game at halftime, you just, Lord, you know the final result, so let me just play. So focusing in on that has, for me, helped a ton.
Dono, Coach talked about this past game that if he felt like your defense had an impact on some of the other players, including Timea as well. Have you felt that impact yourself, that when you bring that level of intensity during a game, that kind of, mirrors off into other people and feel kind of some of your teammates kind of step up to that level, bring that physicality when you show it yourself?
Yeah, there's 5 of us on the floor, and when you see the person that has to pick up the ball, the one that has the person that starts the whole play, and if their energy is up, it really helps a lot. When anyone on the team, for me, has a lot of energy on the court on defense, I'm like, oh, I got to pick it up. I can't be the one that's slacking because they're putting all their effort in. So I think if just, whether it's me, Kennedy, Mata, if we're picking up on the energy full court or doing what we can to stop transition to buy everyone else time, I think it's just helped everyone. And when you realize you're getting steals, and last weekend for sure we got a lot of tips in every position. So now everyone realizes they can also get steals, they can also impact, and so I think as a team that just helped.
To me, I'm curious from your standpoint, obviously coming from the bench, how important do you think the level of bench play has been for you guys this season, including yourself, Lily, so many others that have stepped up in these big games, and how much of a difference do you think that's made on this squad this year, especially compared to last season?
For sure. This year I feel like we're a lot deeper than previous years. So that allows us to be able to get into our bench. And all of us, I kind of use this phrase, but we all have Duffies. So we all kind of tap into our bags when we play. And with that, we're able to score from so many multiple positions in multiple ways. And so you can put Adley in, she can hit the 3. You can put Lily in, she can hit the 3. All of us can. And so it kind of throws different looks at the defense. And it's been kind of fun this year to kind of see everybody get into their Duffies. So.
And last week, I know you guys, it was a big deal for you guys to get in those top 25 rankings, and obviously you guys keep moving up. Now, what is the goal? I know you guys say that you don't care about the ranking, but like looking ahead into going into the second half of the Pac-12 season and how crucial it kind of is for you guys to win some more games. Just what are your guys' goals as a team? What are some conversations that you're having?
For sure. It's a huge compliment to our hard work, obviously, to be ranked. But it's business as usual. We're still putting in work. We're going to play our basketball, and our basketball is very good basketball. And so that's all we can do, control what we can control, and then let the rest take care of the rest. So.
Yeah. And Donovan, just thinking about that first game against Oregon and how much you've grown just with the experience that the Pac-12 brings. In what area do you feel like you and also the team have grown the most since that game?
I mean, I feel like I'm like repeating myself, but the confidence. All of us go into college and we have the skill set. It's just a matter if you believe it or not. When it comes to hitting a shot, if you're second guessing yourself even the slightest, you're probably not going to hit it. So I think all of us have acknowledged how hard all of us have worked, especially since the Oregon game on, and just realized we're honestly wasting our potential if we're not believing in ourselves. I mean, all of us believe in Timea, all of us believe in Talia, you know, every single person. So when everyone realizes that we all believe in each other, then the effort level comes. Everyone wants to work harder. Everyone's scoring a lot more or getting a lot more steals, and it literally just stemmed from, like she says, we all got in our Duffy. We all went out and played. So I really think it just stems from the mindset.
And back to Timea, you know, it's hard to like have a huge upset like that and then come out and play the way you guys wanted to play. Like, what was the conversations like in that like very short amount of time before you had to turn around and face another tough opponent? What kind of drove that team to be able to recover emotionally, physically, mentally from that and come around and play another great game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think we kind of, I mean, obviously we celebrated the win on Friday, and Saturday morning we were like, okay, we got to take care of Utah, another great team. And so we just kind of, you know, honed in on the little things we need to take care of, learned from the mistakes we made against Colorado, and just fine-tuned the little things, and then got ready for Sunday. So, yeah, it's kind of on to the next mentality, really, is how you have to be in the pack. So, yeah.
Donovyn, I had one last question. As somebody that grew up in this state, this game Sunday, we don't know if this is the last one you'll play against Oregon or not, but would you be disappointed if you don't play Oregon anymore?
It'd be sad, but again, I can't control whether we play them again or not. I think just focusing in on I even got to play them, my younger self would be really happy. So just not focusing on, I don't, possibly may not get to play them again. Changing my mindset to I did get to play them is most important for me. So just glad that I got to play them and get to play them on Sunday. So.
Did you follow the Ducks at all growing up? I don't know. Which side of the aisle you were on?
Yeah, I actually was right in the middle. Whoever won, I was like, you guys go. I was surrounded by a lot of friends and family that were really like diehard Ducks or diehard Beavers. I was never really one of them, but obviously now ride for the Beavs. So.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Go Bees.
Go Beavs.